Welcome to the Lineage Research Workshop, Beyond the Musket, Identifying the Civil and Patriotic Service of Our Ancestors and Where to Search for Proof. I'm Ali Golan, National Chair, Lineage Research. Whether you're in search of a qualifying ancestor for a prospective new member or exploring your own lineage in hopes of proving supplemental applications, we hope the information included in this presentation will inspire you to research and better understand the many ways men and women supported the cause for American independence. While most members joined DAR because a direct ancestor, generally a male, fought in the American Revolutionary War, there are many other ways for our ancestors to have rendered aid to the colonists in the struggle for American independence. When you have exhausted efforts in search of an ancestor who picked up a weapon and actually fought, and you still come up short, it's time to go beyond the musket. From the DAR Genealogy Guidelines, Part 3, Service, many of us are familiar with these types of acceptable military service. Military service can often be found through online resources, including Ancestry.com, Fold 3, online published muster rolls, and more. The names of the men who served in a military capacity often appear in historical publications, featuring the lists of various regiments and companies. Military service during the Revolution began with the Battle of Lexington, 19 April 1775, and ended on 26 November 1783, the date the British evacuated New York City. This presentation, though, is going to focus on qualifying service other than military service. Our ancestors rendered aid to the colonists in many ways. It is important to understand what types of service qualify for inclusion in the DAR database and where to search for them. Civil service, for instance, includes patriots who acted as officers of their local government entities in the role of selectmen and moderators, state officials, town clerks and treasurers, judges, jurors, and justices of the peace, sheriffs, constables, jailers, overseers of the roads, the poor, and so on. Many published town histories include lists of those who served in these capacities. We'll explore resources of where to search for these later in this presentation. Civil service also includes displaying evidence of loyalty to the colonist effort, such as signing oaths of allegiance. It is important to note civil service began in the new American states when the royal governor was removed from power and a form of statewide American government was established. Credit is not given for civil service in cities or states occupied by the British. Civil service is credited only when the Americans gained or regained control of the locality. Patriotic service is yet another way your ancestor may have demonstrated loyalty to the colonists, and as such may qualify as a DAR ancestor. To prove loyalty, the National Society requires documentation from an acceptable source of an act or series of actions by which an individual clearly supported the fight for American independence. Patriotic service is evaluated on a case-by-case basis that focuses on the purpose of the act or actions, as well as the risks and consequences involved. The National Society will consider acts of patriotic service that occurred between 19 April 1775 and 26 November 1783. Exceptions to this rule are individuals who served on committees made necessary by the approaching war in late 1774 and early 1775. Proof of civil and patriotic service may be found in town, county, state, and federal records. Old letters, diaries, and personal papers may also be used as evidence of patriotic service. However, before submitting, please make sure that these documents were recorded at the time of the event and that they meet the current DAR standards of acceptability. Some examples of patriotic service currently accepted by the National Society are noted here. This is by no means a complete list, and you should review Genealogy Guidelines, Part 3, for more information. Members of the Congresses, including state governors and legislators. The provincial Congresses met in each of the colonies in 1774, and minutes for many of these gatherings have been published. Of course, royal governors do not qualify for service. Members of the Continental Congress. Members of committees made necessary by the war. These members of these committees were elected, and their primary duty was to enforce adherence to the terms of the Articles of Association. Of course, anyone who participated in the Boston Tea Party is eligible. Signers of an oath of allegiance or fidelity, and signers of petitions, especially petitions that included requests for political separation from Great Britain. Defenders of forts and stations are documented as having actively defended Western frontiers and qualify for patriotic service. Doctors, nurses, and others who rendered aid to the American wounded. Ministers who gave patriotic sermons and encouraged patriotic activity. Prisoners of war or refugees fleeing occupation and those who suffered depredation may also be eligible. Prisoners on British ships. Those who furnished a substitute for military service. Note that military service would be given to the man who served as the substitute. Those who rendered material aid and supported the cause of American independence by furnishing supplies, loaning money, or providing munitions. The term supply tax is generally understood as money raised specifically to purchase material aid, such as clothing, food, and wagons to provide to the military and naval forces. Financing the American Revolution proved challenging, as there was no central treasury, nor did the Continental Congress have the power to tax individual states. Between January 1777 and October 1782, the Continental Congress passed a series of requisitions with the intent to raise money for the war effort. Individual quotas were placed on each state to raise the necessary funds. In order for these supply taxes to be considered for DAR purposes, confirmation of the law that authorizes the tax must be submitted with the supply tax. Now that you have a better idea of what types of acts your ancestor may have performed that would qualify as service for DAR's purposes, let's discuss where you might find acceptable documentation. In addition to proving the act of civil or patriotic service, you must also prove the residency of your ancestor. The place of residence during the Revolution must be given as fully as possible, usually at the town level in New England and at the county level elsewhere. This could come from land deeds, birth records, particularly of the children of the ancestor, published histories, and even some family genealogies. If the ancestor's residence is not currently listed in his or her GRS profile, or if this is a new ancestor, the residence requirement must be met before services will be considered. The Society requires proof of residence in order to connect the claimed ancestor in the lineage with the service claimed, and to ensure that service is not assigned to one person when in fact it was performed by another of the same or similar name. With few exceptions, such as pensions, sources used to prove residence cannot be the same source used to provide service. For instance, if you have proof of service for an individual on a jury, you should prove from other sources generated during that time that the juror was the same person. Residence must be shown to be consistent with the life events for the individual. If an ancestor was born in and/or died in one state, but the residence and service are in another state, acceptable documentation must be provided to show that the individual moved from the state they were born in to the state they served and then to where they died. Please be sure to review DAR Genealogy Guidelines Part 3 for more information about proving residence in conjunction with civil or patriotic service. So how will we prove civil or patriotic service? Let's start with information we can find in our own backyard. The public website for the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution is renowned for its collection of records related to the Revolutionary War era. DAR members, through exclusive members-only access, can view even more. And chapter registrars have been granted image access, allowing them to review documents from within the Genealogical Records Committee, or GRC. To begin understanding these important collections, log on to the members-only DAR website and select the green Research GRS button from the top of your screen. Then select the GRC tab if you are not already directed there. This collection includes a number of valuable resources for proving civil and patriotic service, including lists of signers of the Oath of Allegiance, lists of town officials, and names that appear on qualifying tax lists for several of the colonies. To search for your ancestor, select the appropriate state from the drop-down menu and enter the individual's surname and part or all of the first name. Remember to use variations of spellings of names to locate your ancestor. Be creative in your search because not all spellings were consistent. This same collection hosts a wealth of genealogically significant information, but for the purposes of this presentation, we are focusing solely on acts that qualify as civil or patriotic service. You will be then presented with a list of entries of documents that include your ancestor's name. The screenshot shown here is from the perspective of a chapter registrar who has credentials for image access. Please note the very serious restrictions for use of this tool. Absolutely no screenshots or captures of these documents are permissible. Access to viewing these images is strictly for the privilege of confirming whether the document includes the information you seek and to determine whether to order it from the DAR library. Members who violate the established policies for image access will lose this privileged access. From this screen, the hyperlinked page number will display a list of all names included on that page, which may be helpful in confirming your ancestor if other family names are listed. While the View button, again only visible to members with image access, will bring up the digitized image of the page. Do not abuse the privilege of image access by capturing the document's image. The only acceptable way to obtain a copy of the image is to order it from the DAR Library Search Service. You can learn more about how to order copies from the DAR website under GRC, then clicking on Overview, and then the Ordering Copies link. Details of the photocopy service, including a link to the photocopy request form, are available from the member's website. Let's explore another DAR treasure trove of data for proving civil and patriotic service, the resulting work of the Patriot Records Project. From the public or members version of the DAR website within GRS, click the Rev War tab from the top of your screen. From here, you can access 3 projects: the Patriot Records Project Index, the Revolutionary War Pension Index, and the Forgotten Patriots Research Guide. For our purposes of discovering qualifying proof for civil and patriotic service, we'll focus on the Patriot Records Project Index. Click on the hyperlink for the Patriot Records Project Index. This index includes digitized records from numerous collections related to providing support to colonists. Locating your ancestor begins with entering his or her surname and first name or first initial. Remember to use variations in spelling. The indexing project is ongoing and will continue to feature the work from digitized collections of valuable Revolutionary War era documents, so researchers are encouraged to check back frequently. If you discover a document that may prove helpful in your effort to confirm the qualifying service of an ancestor, you will need to order that from the repository that owns the original. From the source document list, click on the blue question mark icon to learn what entity owns the record in question. In many instances, you will be directed to the document source, and you can learn how to order a copy for your purposes. Our very own DAR library catalog is available from the comfort of your living room. Don't forget to use this valuable resource as well. The DAR library's collection of more than 225,000 books, 10,000 research files, thousands of manuscript items, and special collections includes documentation for proving civil and patriotic service. Search and photocopy services are available by email request. Additional recommended resources can be found from the Resources tab of the public or members website and clicking Recommended Websites. From here, you will find links to several sites that will aid in your research efforts. Of course, there are many online resources not related to DAR available that may provide documentation or clues to qualifying civil and patriotic acts of service. Many published county and town histories include lists of elected officials during the qualifying time period and are available online. Researchers are encouraged to review the many bibliographies included in DAR Genealogy Guidelines Part 3 for more information. One very helpful online resource, especially for discovering hard-to-locate details of an ancestor's civil or patriotic and military service, is from DAR member Deb Douay, called Debbie's Lineage Research Corner. You'll find this at learnwebskills.com/lineage. Please bookmark this site as you cannot reach it through traditional search engine lookups. This version of the website is offered exclusively to DAR members and contains images and helpful information not found on the public version. Let's walk through an example of identifying the patriotic service of a Quaker ancestor named Charles French, living in Waterford, Gloucester County, New Jersey, during the time of the Revolutionary War. We know Charles was a Quaker, so he likely did not fight, and in fact his name does not appear on any muster rolls. So we are seeking civil or patriotic services for this man. We'll start by clicking Sources of Service. From here, you will find a page including general information. Then, by colony, links to many sources of qualifying military, patriotic, and civil service. In many cases, additional helpful details about what years a patriotic or civil act needed to have taken place to qualify, as in this example for Maryland signers of the Oath of Allegiance, are included. For this example we are highlighting, we want the New Jersey section of this webpage. We see the time period for the qualifying supply tax. A bit farther down the screen, we discover links to images of supply tax lists for various counties in New Jersey. Please note the public version of this website does not include these images. You must be on the DAR members only version of the site to view these. Gloucester County is listed. As we are directed to the page of images, from here we can scroll or use the search function until we find the name of the town where our ancestor lived. We know from this site that the tax had to have been paid after 8 June 1779 to qualify. Each of these listings meets that criteria. From here, we may need to view several pages until we find the ancestor in question, Charles French. Some, but not all of the lists are in alphabetical order. And there he is, from the 1782 list of the ratables of Waterford, Gloucester County, New Jersey, our prospective member's ancestor. This is just one example of a successful search for patriotic service. The Learn Web Skills site contains numerous invaluable resources for qualifying service. Good luck. Remember, you must develop the lineage of your qualifying ancestor to the Revolutionary War period, determining exactly where the ancestor lived between 1775 and 1783. The ancestor must have lived within the town, township, precinct, or hundred where the civil or patriotic service was performed. DAR evidence standards apply to online sources and the acceptability of your submission and are evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Good luck in your effort to honor Revolutionary War ancestors who aided the American colonists through acts of civil and patriotic service. We hope this presentation inspires you to seek out and recognize those men and women who sacrificed so much in the forming of our nation.